It's very good to see you, Julianna. Could you please introduce yourself for everyone?
Yes, my name is Julianna Canabal Rodríguez. I am 23 years old. I'm basically on the cusp of graduating from the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez. And we are in a global pandemic.
Julianna, what does that mean to you that we're in a global pandemic? What does it mean to you personally?
It means, in very short terms, like an upending of everything, of the life as we know it, of sort of the short-term visualization of plans that I had. It's made it harder to imagine certain futures that maybe I could have pursued right now in like the very near future of the next few months. It's become a lot more of like worrying about the safety of basically everybody I know, though obviously it goes beyond that, because as someone who knows a lot about the structural inequality and a lot of systemic issues that plague people all over the world, but especially in such a short in a short spectrum, like in Puerto Rico where I live, it's become really frustrating and difficult, exhausting, really sad, and also depressing, unfortunately, because of the way that the government has not responded to the crisis in a way.
Julianna, do you want to say anything specific about that lack of response and how it feels to see that lack of response?
It feels really frustrating because it feels like a different sort of deja vu, though it's with a different governor, but the response is tricky. It's trickier to assess because although initially in March, when the lockdown first went down, it was something that a lot of people rejoiced in. Well, some people who understood what it would mean if the crisis hit Puerto Rico and overwhelmed its hospitals because we lack infrastructure. It quickly became real what the intentions of the government were when we realized that it was a half measure, and it was something that the government did because it had no other plan in place, and it just decided that it wouldn't have another plan. It was just like, we're going to put every single citizen in lockdown, but we're also not going to give them unemployment benefits, or we're also not going to find a way to stop unemployment from piling up so much. And this probably came with them knowing that they didn't have an infrastructure to deal with mass unemployment in the first place. This came with knowing that the government was placing responsibility on individuals rather than taking, owning up to its own part in securing the well-being of citizens. Like right now, we are seeing that the government is about to open up, and it's saying that it's going to open up a lot of, markets. It's going to open up malls. It's going to open up the country, even though it's sort of it's in a lockdown, but it's going to open up most of it. And people, because we've had such technically low death count, though also we don't know that because they're not taking data on it. Sorry, I kind of lost. I lost my.
That's okay. That's okay. And you were talking here about the infrastructure and saying that one of the reasons why Puerto Rico had such a very strict lockdown very early on was because there wasn't another plan in place about our failing infrastructure. Is there anything you want to say specifically about that infrastructure and things that you're worried about with that?
Yeah, I want to say that it's become really clear that Puerto Rico and its government it doesn't have prevention plans. It wants to work on issues when they arrive, even though if it had a smarter infrastructure that dealt with preventing mass issues, like for example with our electric grid, with this mass unemployment, and with preventing this disease, which we could have prevented if maybe ports had been closed down earlier. or if there has been, just tracking of data and the common sense scientific consensus that there has been on this, which is, if we do contact tracing and if we do, and if we try to see if we can, feed our people without forcing them to leave their homes as much, there could have just been not just a physical, like we could have prevented a physical and death toll, but also prevented the social destruction and like the worsening of the safety net that we just don't have here. So I think it's more of the infrastructure. The question of infrastructure in Puerto Rico is more about talking about the lack of infrastructure because we just don't have any.
Thank you so much. Some of the work that you've done on the María project already was focused on talking to a young person who didn't have a family structure as well as a governmental structure. And I was wondering if you're seeing any connections between what happened after Hurricane Maria and what you're seeing now.
I think there are definitely similarities, and there will definitely be cases like hers because we have not advanced in terms of creating any better social safety net for that has not been, out of mutual aid structures, which of course are really important, and they have definitely been more in place after because Hurricane Maria has prepped us to think and realize that, and even the earthquakes, that nobody is going to come to save us. So I think that these structures have definitely been implemented faster as we have more disasters, but I think these structures do not substitute what could have helped more people if it had been better organized and structured. So I think the stories don't change that much, except people have much shorter what's called tolerance for this failure, because it's been on and on and on, and then you compare the reactions from the government to these things, and people just are feeling more infuriated and more ready to put their body on the streets and fight over these failures, because you just feel the more that this happens, the more that we realize how deliberate this is designed. And I think from the people I've talked to, I think that's been sort of the constant that I've come across with people I've talked to, that people are just tired. They're not making any if they ever had any sympathy or any excuse for like why the government behaved like this, now we realize that this is truly by design, and people are still going to have these stories, and it is just going to be more exacerbated because we have been starved of any kind of protection for our well-being, whether it's like mental, physical, emotional. And we just feel like we're being set up to die. It feels sort of like a genocide, which I've been sort of feeling since March, since before the lockdown, the lockdown formally, but now more so because of the United States and what it's doing to, it's not even pretending to help its own citizens when we're already second-rate citizens in their eyes, or maybe not even citizens exactly, because not everybody knows about us. And it sort of feels like that might be what's going on now when we compare it to what happened before.
Julianna, thank you so much.